really the crazy musician we've all heard?
Were several albums in the fall of 2001 recalled due to the events of 9/11?
Hey everybody, this is Big Randy with the Smarts Project. I've provided security and transportation for some of the biggest names in the music industry.
I'm John. I've been a musician for over 20 years, playing everything from metal and punk to bluegrass and country.
We're bringing you a podcast about some of the weirdest myths and legends that the music industry has to offer. This is Tall Tales and Music Mythology. Hey everybody, this is Big Randy with the Smarts Project. Welcome to the podcast. And now a man that can see for miles and miles and miles, Mr. Jonathan Gluff.
Hello, everybody.
So I don't have a whole bunch for the Boom Squad update or the Smarts Project update. The Boom Squad kids went out Friday and Saturday to a competition in Indianapolis.
Oh, cool.
I am going to assume that they came back with a couple of asses that they slashed, and because they're some bad kids, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, they're good. They are really good. But I haven't heard back from Verdelsky or anybody from Boom Squad yet, so
gotcha.
I'm gonna wait on that. So, in music news, you familiar with Rodney Crowell? Rodney Crowell,
sound familiar, at
country
least.
artist,
Okay.
cancels his remainder of his 2017 shows. He announced on September 20th that he's taken time off to address health issues that require his complete rest.
Oh.
And for the foreseeable future, he said, with expert medical guidance and work will consist of quietly encouraging my body to return to its natural state. I'm sorry for any inconvenience this may have caused.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and the only thing that scares me about this is whenever he says, allow my body to encourage my body to return to its natural state. That was kind of
vague.
Well, yeah, it was vague, but it was kind of it was a guy from Apple,
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, it's kind of Steve Jobsy.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I hope he's just doing the right thing and not doing no crazy. Well, this tea will
Wait.
fix me.
Is he who wrote Elvira?
He performed it. I'm not entirely sure.
Holy crap! I'm looking at his discography here.
Yeah, I know he performed it.
Okay, so yeah, when did he
I think
he
it's
released it
77.
in 78?
78, yeah.
So he did it before the Oak Ridge Boys did.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay.
I've never
Interesting.
talked to them. Like, if they're doing a cover, I always just assumed it was theirs.
No, some guy named, what did it say? Hang on. Dallas Frazier wrote it.
That brother's got bank.
Oh, yeah.
How many
no
movies
doubt.
they use that in? Jesus Christ on a bone, man.
Huh.
So,
Interesting.
Crowell was unable to attend the 2017 Americana Music Awards, where his Roseanne Cash and John Paul White collaboration, It Ain't Over Yet, won the organization's Song of the Year award. In June, he helped announce the proclamation to observe October 20th as Heal the Music Day in Nashville. The Capital campaign encouraged artists and music companies to donate 5% of their earnings for October 20th to nonprofit Music Health Alliance, which provides access to life-changing medical care and members of the music community nationwide who are self-employed or part of a small business without access to group benefits, which actually, technically, that would be smart. Yeah, I see more research in my future. Some of the songs you might remember from Rodney Crowell were "It's Such a Small World" with Roseanne Cash. I couldn't leave you if I tried. She's crazy for leaving after all this time, above and beyond, and many a long and lonesome highway. So, best wishes to him, and he's definitely a legend. He's a big old writer, that's for sure.
Yeah, man, I'm looking at this, and I recognize a few of these songs, like even Cowgirls Get the Blues.
Yeah.
I recognize that song. Apparently he did a a version of "I Walk the Line" with Johnny Cash.
Yeah,
I did not know that. That's interesting.
I found from the few conversations that I've had with people in the music industry that, there's people like me and you, the people that, well, you're a different case, but normal people like me that, we have normal taste and we're not biased by somebody's talent or something like that. We just judge it by, whether we like the music or not,
Right.
Then there's people like, Banjo Bonsall, or Dwayne Allen, or whoever, off of Oak Ridge Boys that they have. There's like musician,
right,
or
right.
writer's writer.
Right.
Rodney Crowell's one of those.
Yeah.
And they might not be a big deal to us, but they've done a lot of stuff behind, on the other side of the window in the recording studio.
Right, exactly.
So anyway, I'm going to get to it. The legendary exploding drummer for The Who literally did it all, even things you could never possibly imagine. He drove a Lincoln into a Holiday Inn swimming pool in Flint, Michigan, and drove his Rolls Royce into a pond. He bought a hovercraft, stalling it out on railroad tracks, and left it there.
Now, is the hotel pool thing true?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, I got something about that later on, yeah.
Because from what I could find, I kind of researched that a little bit once upon a time. I couldn't find anything that verified that, so I'm curious to see what you got here.
Yeah. He blew up his drum kit on national television, passed out in the middle of an arena gig, and terrorized the population by making hilarious fake announcements from the PA system installed in his car. I can't help but think that had been a fun dude to hang around for about 10 minutes.
A buddy of mine and I talked about getting a PA for one of our cars, and we never did it out of fear that the cops wouldn't like that too much.
Well, back in the day, when I was a kid, back in the day,
whippersnappers.
Yeah, the big thing was, like during the Smoking the Bandit days, you'd have a PA in your car, pickup truck or something like that, and also the Mexican horns.
Oh,
Oh man, that was a bomb, man. And I remember going to Radio Shack and buying that little box, and it was like. I don't know, like if you took like 3 or 4 iPhones and stacked them on top of each other, that was about the size of the box.
Gotcha.
And you had like La Cucaracha and, Pepe Le Pew, the theme song for Pepe Le Pew was on there. I mean, there was like 5 or 6 of them that was on there. Yeah, and you hook them up to your horn. It was funny as hell.
I remember a guy I went to church with, it was probably back in the late 90s, it was probably late 90s. He put a horn in his truck that was the Dukes of Hazzard horn.
Geez.
Yeah. So he'd always be playing that in the parking lot after church. It was fun.
No, really?
Yeah,
in the parking lot of the
Yeah.
church? That's cool. His love for practical jokes, elaborate costumes, and getting naked is matched only by his superhuman intake of drugs and alcohol. Yeah. But that wasn't what fueled his antics. He would have done it all anyway. It all started on an early show at the Railway Tavern in Harrow, England. Townsend smashes guitar after accidentally breaking it. When the audience demanded that he do it again, Moon kicked over his drum kit, and a legend was born.
Nice.
Subsequent live sets culminated in what the band later described as, quote, auto-destructive art, in which band members, particularly Moon and Townsend, elaborately destroyed their equipment.
Right.
On the Who's early U.S. package tour at the RKO Theater in New York in March and April of 1967, Moon performed 5 shows a day, kicking over his drum kit after each show.
Jeez, 5 sets a day?
Yeah.
That's insane.
5 sets of drums a day that would get trashed.
I used to be in 2 bands at one point, and we would occasionally play back-to-back shows.
All right.
Even that was kind of extreme. I can't imagine what playing 5 shows in a day.
Yeah, and I'm almost positive that he's probably expelling more energy in a performance than you were.
Yeah. I mean,
just being a drummer alone,
right,
you know?
right.
But him being crazy.
That's insane.
Later that year, during their performance on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, he bribed a stagehand to load gunpowder into one of his bass drums. The stagehand used about 10 times the amount that he requested. Oh. During the finale of My Generation, he kicked the drum off the riser and set off the charge. The intensity of the explosion lighted Pete Townsend's hair on fire and embedded the piece of the cymbal in Moon's arm.
Oh, man.
I don't think they ever took that piece out. I didn't research it, but I've heard that before.
Wow.
His prime purpose in this prank was to upstage the Smothers. And when he appeared right in front of the camera whilst the joke was being cracked, before collapsing, his attempts were successful. Betty Davis was standing backstage during the explosion and fainted.
Oh, my God. Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, man, that's so funny. A clip of the incident became the opening scene for the film The Kids Are All Right.
Huh.
Of course, he also created hotel trash, and as we know it today, sometimes employing cherry bombs to pulverize toilets. The author of Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere, The Complete Chronicle of The Who, estimated his hotel plumbing bill at around $500,000.
Oh, my God.
Of dollars back then.
Right.
So God only knows. I didn't even change it, find out what it would be in today's dollars, you know. Moon's favorite stunt was to flush powerful explosives down toilets. Moon's toilet pyrotechnics began in 1965 when he purchased a case of 500 cherry bombs. He moved from cherry bombs to M80 fireworks to full sticks of dynamite.
Good Lord.
Which became his explosive of choice.
Oh, my God.
I love this guy, man. All that porcelain flying through the air was quite unforgettable, Moon remembered. He quickly developed a reputation for destroying bathrooms and blowing up toilets. The destruction mesmerized him. He and enhanced his public image as rock's premier hellraiser. Pete Townsend walked into the bedroom of Moon's hotel room and noticed the toilet had disappeared, with only the S-bin remaining. The drummer explained since the cherry bomb was about to explode, he had to throw it down the toilet, and showed Townsend the case of cherry bombs. And of course, from that moment on, the guitarist remembered, we got thrown out of every hotel we ever stayed in. John Entwistle recalled being close to Moon on tour. He says, I suppose we were two of a kind. We shared a room on the road and got up to no good. Consequently, both were often involved in blowing up toilets. In 1981, in a 1981 Los Angeles Times interview, he admitted, a lot of times when Keith was blowing up the toilets, I was standing behind him with the matches. In Alabama, Moon and Entwistle loaded a toilet with cherry bombs after being denied room service. According to John Entwistle, that toilet was just dust all over the walls by the time we checked out. Check this out. The hotel management brought our suitcases down to the gig they were performing at and said, don't come back.
Oh, wow. Now, that surprises me that John Entwistle was involved with that, too, because he always seemed like he was the most calm out of the whole group. I mean, obviously, you hear about Pete Townsend smashing guitars and then much, much, much later getting arrested for child pornography.
Sure.
Or, Keith doing all his crazy shit, but I've never
heard John Entwistle.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting to me.
A hotel manager called Moon in his room one time and asked him to lower the volume on his cassette recorder because it made, quote, too much noise. In response, the drummer asked him up to the room, excused himself to go to the bathroom, put a lit stick of dynamite in the toilet, and shut the bathroom door. Upon returning, he asked the manager to stay for a moment because he wanted to explain something to him. Following the explosion, Moon turned the recorder back on and said, that, dear boy, was noise. Other times, he wrecked rooms the old-fashioned way, by hand. According to Townsend, Moon began destroying hotel rooms when the Who stayed at the Berlin Hilton on tour in late 1966. In addition to hotel rooms, Moon destroyed his friend's home, and even his own, throwing furniture from upper-story windows and lighting fires in rooms.
Jeez.
Pete Townsend loves to tell the time when the band were driving to the airport, and Keith insisted that they return to the hotel, saying, oh my gosh, I forgot something. They ran back to his room. He went up to the room, grabbed a television, threw it out the window into the swimming pool, and got back into the car and says, I nearly forgot. Okay, let's go. So probably the biggest story I've ever heard that related to the Who, that's not musically related, is the Flint, Michigan Holiday Inn incident. On 23 August 1967, on tour opening for Herman's Hermits, Moon celebrated what he said was his 21st birthday. Although in real life it was his 20th birthday.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, at a Holiday Inn in Flint, Michigan. They said there were the local law enforcement in the area, they had heard rumors that, if anybody's drinking, they're going to be coming in and spot checking people for like their IDs or whatever.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they said, you better be 21. So what they did is they made a big deal about it. Like, oh, it's his 21st birthday. Like surely they're not going to check.
Right.
Yeah. And he was really 20 years old in real life.
Gotcha.
The drummer immediately began drinking upon his arrival in Flint. The Who spent the afternoon visiting local radio stations with Nancy Lewis, who was the band's publicist for that tour. Okay. And Moon posed for a photo outside the hotel in front of a happy birthday key sign put up by the hotel management. According to Lewis, Moon was drunk by the time the band went on stage at Atwood High School football stadium. At the hotel waiting for the band's return was a special birthday cake made to look like 5 life-size drums stacked on top of each other.
Nice.
And that was a life-size. So, I mean, the bottom was as big as a bass drum, which that fascinates the hell out of me. This was provided by Premier Drums, the brand of drums that Keith Moon played. The celebration and cake was in appreciation for the free advertisement Moon had provided by playing their brand. And I'm sure that part of it was appreciation just by the pure volume of drums that was purchased for them to replace the ones that he destroyed.
No doubt.
Returning to the hotel, Moon started a food fight with the cake, and soon the special cake began flying through the air. The drummer knocked out part of his front tooth at the hospital. The doctors could not give him anesthetic due to his inebriation before removing the remainder of his tooth. Ooh. Could you imagine getting a tooth removed with no anesthetic?
Bad time.
And I bet you that drunk was going real fast as soon as them pliers get in your mouth, man. Jeez. Back at the hotel, melee erupted. Fire extinguishers were set off. Guests and objects were thrown into the swimming pool, and a piano was reportedly destroyed. The chaos ended only when the police arrived with guns drawn. The total damage bill ran to $24,000 in 1967 dollars, which is just a tad over $176,000 today.
Jeez.
Reports included the record company buying the quote-unquote damp car from its irate owner that was plowed into the pool. Man. The bill was reportedly settled by Herman's Hermits tour manager Ed McCann. Townsend claimed that the Who were banned for life from all Holiday Inn properties, but it was reported that was actually true.
I believe it.
But it was reported that they stayed at a Holiday Inn in Rochester, New York, a week later. So there was actually multiple times that they stayed at different Holiday Inns, but really they weren't supposed to.
Right.
And I don't know if that was by fault or design, but it happened.
I'm guessing back then it would have been hard for a message like that to be communicated quickly, especially to every single hotel within that chain.
After the events of that evening, there's a lot of things that happen in music history and in every genre probably that there's something that happens and then somebody will come along, usually a journalist, and they'll say, this was the event that changed rock, or this is the event that changed country, or whatever.
Yeah.
After the events of that evening, several things permanently changed within both the hotel and entertainment industries. Touring rock and roll bands were introduced to a new and entertaining hobby to pass the time between shows. The Who were banned for life from performing in Flint, Michigan, which I believe still stands today.
I believe that.
Holiday Inn declared what is believed to be the first and only global lifetime ban on The Who from all future hotel stays in any Holiday Inn anywhere. Hotel operators discovered that promoting a celebrity visit was best after departure of the celebrity unless security was dramatically enhanced. Hotel architects made it considerably more difficult for motor vehicles to interact with swimming pools. I love the way that was written. Nice. Insurance carriers dramatically increased premiums for third-party property damage to cover on concert tour policies. Hotel accounting departments dramatically increased credit requirements for touring rock and roll bands. And this one I know for sure. I know this for a fact. I know this. I've seen it with my own eyes. Band road managers dramatically increased the amount of petty cash on hand to handle, quote, unforeseen talent-related incidents, unquote. So, clarification for historians and fans interested in making a pilgrimage to the site. The former Flint Holiday Inn is now a Days Inn, Flint Frankenmuth, located at 2207 West Bristol Road. This fact somehow eluded VH1 on a 1999 special. They were mistakenly filming segments at the Flint Holiday Inn Express.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. The good news was that Holiday Inn took advantage of the VH1 specials publicity to formally lift its lifetime ban of The Who. So this was an interesting story, and I wanted to throw it in there. To validate that driving the car in the pool thing.
Yeah.
It was Ed McCann, the tour manager for Herman's Hermits. He was the one. He was like, you can say whatever you want. I paid for that car. That's how come they call it a damp car.
Right.
Oh, geez. So on the night of May 16th, 1969, almost to the date that their iconic fourth album, the rock opera Tommy, was released, The Who was playing at the Fillmore East in Manhattan. I'm really hoping you've never heard this story because this is such a good story.
I don't know if I ever know.
Only a handful of songs into their set, a somewhat disheveled-looking, heavy-set guy climbed up on the stage, grabbed the microphone out of singer Roger Daltrey's hand right in the middle of a song. Daltrey stood there stunned for a few seconds. Bassist John Entwistle and one of the band's roadies grabbed the guy. Guitarist Pete Townsend walked up to him and kicked him right in the giggleberries. Then they unceremoniously threw him off the stage.
Oh, man.
The band went back to the song they were playing, and Keith Moon never stopped playing the entire time. Less than a minute later, the band stopped playing, and Pete Townsend said over the mic, "I smell smoke." Someone walked out from the stage, whispered in his ear, and the band walked off the stage. The 5-story apartment building and supermarket next to the theater was on fire, and the show was over. Unbeknownst to the band, the guy who jumped on the stage was a plainclothes cop. He was trying to tell everyone about the fire. The NYPD wanted to charge Townsend with the assault, but he eventually paid a fine instead. You never heard that?
No.
I haven't either.
And I mean, there's lots of instances of people jumping on stage and bands kicking the shit out of them or whatever. Like there's a famous video of Tool. They were playing a show, I don't remember where, it doesn't matter, and this fan jumps up on the stage and goes up to Maynard, the singer, and he looks at him like he's going to hug him, so puts his arm around him, and then just super quickly he hip tosses the dude onto the ground and drops behind him and puts him in a rear naked chokehold.
Oh, wow.
And, like with his legs wrapped around him and everything. Doesn't stop singing the whole time. So he's got his mic in the left or the right hand, I forget which one, and he's choking the dude out with the other, and he's singing the whole time while he's doing it. Huh? No, it's hilarious.
That's like the definition of badass right there, man.
Yeah. Well, because he trained with Hoyce Gacy, who's a...
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, you know who that is.
Yeah.
So, he's training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, but still to never drop a... I mean, I guess if you do it that much,
Oh, man.
It's just like putting butter on bread, I reckon.
It's hilarious. It's a great video.
So, a little bit of trivia just to close this out. Elected to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Keith Moon was as a member of The Who in 1990. Roger Daltrey's song Under a Raging Moon was a tribute to him. The recording featured the work of 40 drummers, including Ringo Starr and his son, Zach Starkey.
Well, Ringo and Keith were really good friends.
Yeah, I got something about that.
Okay, gotcha.
In reality, maybe you just shut the hell up. In reality, Moon and John Entwistle discussed leaving The Who, going as far as to name the band Led Zeppelin. But it was Lead.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
it was really like the true spelling of the two words Led Zeppelin.
Right.
Based on the English saying going over like a Led Zeppelin,
exactly.
as Americans say to going over like a lead balloon.
Which is where Led Zeppelin got their name from as well.
So John Entwistle went as far as to do the drawings for the first album cover, the Hindenburg in Flames, and they discussed the idea with their then driver, Richard Cole. Later, when this didn't materialize, and with Cole leaving their employ and going to work for Jimmy Page, the name was indeed used by Page to name the new Yardbirds. Both Moon and John Entwistle subsequently took credit for the name.
Well, and the first Led Zeppelin album has the Hindenburg on it, too.
He took everything.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Moon was ejected from a hotel suite after a night of nailing and strapping all the furniture to the ceiling.
Yeah, I've heard about that one. That's funny.
he was a front row guest at one of the Monkees concerts in London. The fans in the crowd were yelling, "We want the Monkees! We want the Monkees!" And he started screaming at the top of his lungs, "We want the Who! We want the Who!" Everyone's favorite drummer and member of the Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem may have been inspired by Keith Moon of the Who. You know who I'm talking about?
From the Muppets?
Yeah.
Really?
Animal.
Yeah. That makes sense.
This is a speculation, but people who support this theory will often point out that Jim Henson named one of the Fraggle Rock characters Wembley, which is the town that Moon was born in.
Gotcha.
He did not like school and was not a good student. A teacher once wrote on his report card, "Retarded artistically, idiotic in other respects."
Oh, wow. Savage.
Oh, not a single shit to give. Was good friends with Dallas star Larry Hagman and Harry Nilsson. Which Harry Nilsson, I think that was pretty common.
Right.
Larry Hagman, that one kind of...
The Beatles were really good friends with Harry Nilsson.
Oh, Harry was friends with so many people. Yeah. Jeez. Ringo Starr and Keith Moon were well known for their close, affable friendship. Ringo Starr's son, Zach Starkey, who was both Moon's godson and eventual unofficial replacement as drummer in The Who, described Moon as one of my dad's best friends. Moon, who used to babysit for Starr's children, was responsible for giving Zach his first drum set at 12 years old. I can't think of, outside of serial killers, I can't think of too many people that I would rather not watch my kids than Keith Moon. I don't think that he would ever hurt them on purpose.
No.
But I think that would be some collateral damage.
Man, Keith and Ringo were in some movie together, and I can't think of what it was now. It might have been a Monty Python.
Really?
I can't remember. They had like really, really, really minor kind of background roles. I don't remember what it was now. I'll have to look it up. But
last one I got is Keith Moon, drummer for The Who, passed out during a performance at the Cow Palace, reportedly due to a heavy dose of tranquilizers and brandy. Yeah. Townsend asked the audience, "Can anyone play drums? I mean, somebody good." Fan Scott Halpin took his place and played the last three songs with the band, earning him the Rolling Stones Pickup Player of the Year award. Which apparently they made a big deal out of. That's like they gave him a plaque and everything.
Oh, that's so funny.
So that's all I got. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. We'll be right back. John's going to let us know what he's got.
All right. And we're back. So today, with it being just a few weeks after the anniversary of 9/11, I felt it appropriate to talk about this topic. Certainly not intending to cash in on a tragedy by any means. It's just something I've kind of had on the back burner for a while.
Well, there would have to be cash involved.
Touche. Yeah. But yeah, I've had this, I keep a Google Keep list of different topics as I come across them so I can remember what to talk about later on. And this has been one that's been on there for a few months now. I'm just kind of sitting there waiting. So I figured, now's about as good a time to talk about it as any. So some of this I do recall happening. There's one album in particular that was recalled and given a new title, but I'll get to that in a second. But that's kind of something that spurred me to look into this a little bit more. So 2001 was a very different time for music than it is now. Your record stores were actually still thriving at the time. Album sales were just freaking ridiculous. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for big names like Eminem, Britney Spears, or the various boy bands. They'd sell over 1 million copies in their first week. Hell, sometimes within the first day or two. And you had idiot fans who were buying multiple copies. I remember seeing Carson Daly on TRL talking to stupid little girls who were buying Backstreet Boys and NSYNC albums. They'd buy like 5 or 10 copies. I was like, what the hell is wrong with you?
It happens to every generation, man. I mean, I remember whenever I was in high school and New Van Halen would drop or Journey would drop or something like that. We did the same thing, man. We go out and buy,
You buy multiple copies of it?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah.
That is...
I went out and bought 3 copies of the Boston album.
Oh, my God.
Well, but see, you got to understand that I guess I was kind of on the ass end of the LP era, but people were collecting. Okay, you got guys like DJ Chaos, that he is OG DJ. So
right.
He really does. Whenever he does his thing, and I don't care whether he's doing it for himself or he's doing it for Slick Rick, he really does carry around milk crates full of wax.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
And so because you have guys like him, you have people that they collect the albums and they appreciate the album art and whatever the reason.
Right.
So, that was happening while we were still listening to albums. So there would be people that would go out and they would buy, okay, this is the one that I'm going to listen to, but I'm going to keep this one in the plastic because it's worth a shit ton of money.
I guess that's true. That makes sense. But
just because they have shitty music sense doesn't.
But these girls, they weren't doing it for that reason.
Oh yeah, that was their next step into marrying that kid on that boy band. Yeah,
right. But so due to the nature of those pop acts like Spears and the boys and girl bands, those album sales didn't exactly continue for long, which is why you're not going to see them on any sort of list of best-selling albums of all time. But I digress. Here. So also back then, VH1 and MTV were still mostly playing music, the aforementioned TRL.
The good times, man.
TRL was like the dominant force in their afternoon lineup. Although they still did have garbage like Road Rules and The Real World, which kind of starting to usher in the era of the airwave dominating abominations that are reality television shows.
The beginning of the end.
Indeed, which obviously has... I hate reality television so much, and that honestly is the reason why I have always disliked Donald Trump, regardless of political affiliations.
Right.
I just hated him for The Apprentice and making reality television popular.
Right.
I blame him for that.
I'm almost positive he's not solely responsible for it.
No, but I mean, that was like Survivor was really the first big reality show that I can remember. And I remember when that came out, I was like, this is stupid. I was young.
Right.
I mean, I was a teenager when that came out, and I was like, this is the dumbest show I have ever seen in my life. You guys actually think that this isn't scripted? Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Man, whenever that show came out, I was ass deep in it. I absolutely loved it. Of course, that was, I mean, really, if you were to judge everything equally, in my opinion, the first reality show was probably America's Funniest Home Videos. That was probably the first. No,
because you weren't following people around with a camera. That was
right, but there was still reality TV. They're still showing, technically reality. Things that it never was propped. It was, it was real life stuff. I mean, in my opinion, anyway. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. That's just the way I feel.
That's
but
wrong.
But whenever Survivor came out, man, I was ass deep in it, and I was into the hype too, man. Whenever they were like, "Stay tuned for a hint about next season's location," and then the next year would come out, and then instead of just having that one, they would have 2 different reality shows. And I had a buddy of mine that I don't know why I always hang around people like you, but he was substantially smarter than me. And he said, it's not real reality TV. And I said, no, it is. Like, these are just people off the street, just Joe Bag of Donuts off the street. And he goes, okay, whenever you're watching the credits at the end of it, see if they have a writer. Yeah. And I go, oh, that's stupid. Of course they're not going to have a writer. It's a reality show. And I got down, it was like 7 writers.
Yep.
Oh, well, hi, I'm an idiot. Have we met?
Yeah, I hate
a lot of things.
Well, yeah, obviously. But I mean, anything that's just so very obviously fake just drives me nuts. That authenticity.
Dumbing down of America.
Yeah, man. I mean, authenticity is such a big thing to me. And I feel like shit like that is insulting my intelligence.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me you're offended? You're standing in line to be offended? Is that what you... Anyway,
No.
go ahead, man. I didn't mean to jump in there.
It just drives me nuts. Reality television is just the dregs of entertainment.
Right.
But anywho, so 2001. This is also really before pirating became as widely spread as it is today. And obviously, in the 80s, you could record music onto cassette tapes off of the radio. Hell, even in the 90s, I was doing that. Even, I'd sit with a blank cassette tape in my boombox, wait for a song to come on that I wanted to hear, and hit record. And I would record that.
And then
stuff.
everybody walks in, you're like, shh.
Yeah.
Don't make no noise.
No. It would just record right off of the radio.
Oh, I remember OG doing it. Like, that was the only way we could do it.
You would have like the microphone on the tape recorder. Gotcha. No, I'm talking about my boombox. I could record off of that. But so at this point, Napster had still been around for about 2 years. Napster started in late June of 99. So it had already been around for a while, but not nearly as many people were using it. And it was still kind of the domain of more tech savvy users.
Right.
And the general public didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. I personally was a Kazaa and Morpheus user myself. LimeWire. I did use LimeWire for a while too, until it became just a buggy mess of everything you tried to download was a fucking virus. I mean, everything was a virus. Yeah. And then later on, I moved to SoulSeek, which is still around. Actually, it's another.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's pretty obscure. It is definitely geared more towards more obscure music. And so as my taste kind of gradually moved in that direction, that's what I went to. I mean, I couldn't find like shit like Flipper or Blight, like these obscure 80s hardcore bands on LimeWire or anything like that. But SoulSeek had anything like that, just obscure local punk acts and everything like that.
Right.
So even though piracy was starting to kind of come around, internet assisted piracy was starting to come around, it was still limited to P2P, peer-to-peer file sharing, where you download one file at a time from one other user, and that's it. Torrenting wouldn't become popular for another few years as broadband became more and more the rule and less the exception, because 2001 a broadband connection was incredibly expensive to have, even if that's assuming you were in an area where they even had broadband access. So things were a lot different at the time. Again, most people were still getting their music in physical formats. CDs, cassette tapes were pretty much dead by that point. But so anywho, 2001, 9/11 hits, and several albums were actually affected. There were, and the one that I remember in particular was Jimmy Eat World's. It would have been it was their fourth album. They had one that was just a very small independent release, two that were released on Capitol Records, and then they lost their contract with Capitol and moved to DreamWorks Records, and their album Bleed American came out on July 24th, actually, of that year. But after 9/11, they recalled all the copies that were titled Bleed American and released it as a self-titled album. They even changed the title track to from Bleed American, obviously being the title track, to Salt, Sweat, Sugar, which was the first line of the chorus. So this is the one that I specifically remember happening, because I think, if I remember right, I don't remember if my copy is a Bleed American copy or a self-titled. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have to go digging through boxes and boxes of old CDs to try to find that.
So how does that work? Is there like a label PR person that would go to the band and go, look, this just happened and we think this would be a good idea? Or, I mean, I know it could be the artist's idea, but...
With this one, I'm not sure. The next one I have more definitive answers about, but with this one, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the label suggested it, and the band agreed. They called back any unsold copies of the release that was titled Bleed American, and all new copies that were sent out were just titled Jimmy Eat World.
So the ones that are out there, those are collector's items right now.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Or did they do anything after that?
Oh yeah, Jimmy Eat World's still putting out albums to this day. Yeah, they've had at least 3 or 4, maybe 5 albums since then. Their next album that they put out was in 2004, and in 2014 they did a 10-year anniversary tour for that album. So that was a really great album as well. So that was one of them. And then the next one was The Strokes. Their debut album, Is This It? Which actually, it didn't get released before 9/11. They actually delayed the release of it for 2 reasons. They made 2 changes to the album. So the original album cover, and I've seen this one before, but I didn't realize, I thought it was just like an alternate cover. I didn't realize it was the original one, and they changed it for the American release. The original cover is a picture of a naked woman from like the navel down and like off to the side, and she's got like a black glove on her hand and her hands on her ass. The record label RCA thought that was going to be too racy for more conservative markets.
Yeah, trying to reach that nursing home demographic. Yeah.
Right. So they changed the album, which the album cover that we have today is actually a photo of particle collisions from the big European bubble chamber, which I guess is like the predecessor to CERN, the Hadron Collider that they have in France now. So it's a picture of that, and it just looks like some random kind of geometrical shapes. But also, they removed a song on there that was called New York City Cops, because the song contains the lyric, New York City Cops, they ain't too smart. Now
I'm sure that went over well.
Well, in this case, both the band and the label thought that was insensitive. So they removed that from the release, but it was still on the British and Japanese versions of it. Really? And I actually didn't realize that song wasn't on the American album for a long time, because the version that I acquired, my euphemism for pirated, was a copy of the UK version. And so it had that song on there.
I'll be doing.
So I didn't know for years that wasn't on the American version, because I never had an American copy of it. Obviously now I listen to legally obtained versions through Google Play Music and Spotify.
Yeah, now these legitimate.
But they still don't have that song on the versions that are on there. They have the song on a single that you can listen to through those 2 services. So you can still listen to the song. It's just not a part of the album.
Right.
And not to be outdone in offensiveness, either intentional or unintentional, Slayer's 2001 release, God Hates Us All, caused some controversy, as you can imagine, but not due to the name, album cover, or lyrical content, although I'm sure many puritanical Christians object to at least the title. But actually it was due to a promotional shirt that came with some special editions of the album that said in all caps, God Hates Us All 9/11/01.
Oh, wow.
Now, it was just a coincidence, because obviously they had those made before, because this album was released on...
was it?
This album was actually released on 9/11.
You know, my buddy JR would probably have something to say about this. Mr. Conspiracy himself.
But, so that album was released on 9/11, and so were these next 2. Now, so far, we have things that are just kind of coincidental, or just things done out of respect. Right. Or worried about a possible PR backlash, which I'm guessing is probably the more likely scenario in most of those cases. But these 2 albums were also released on 9/11 and have a little bit more of a direct connection. And I can definitely, one of them, I was like, okay, I can understand why they changed that. The other one, I'm like, oh yeah, they definitely made a smart move changing that one. So Dream Theater, the prog rock or prog metal band, released a live album on September 11th called Live Scenes from New York. And the album cover showed a burning apple, the big apple, with the flame, and in the flame you can see the New York City skyline. You see the Statue of Liberty, and then the Twin Towers.
Oh, wow.
Next to
Talk
it.
about shit luck.
Yeah. So that album, they quickly pulled and re-released it with some different artwork. The artwork itself on the new version is still kind of the background to that, but they don't have that flaming apple on it anymore. There's some strange design in place of that. But even worse than that one is an album by a hip-hop duo I have never heard of before in my life called The Coup. I guess in like a coup d'etat,
Right.
overthrow a government, whatever.
Right.
Their album Party Music, which again was released on 9/11, featured the members standing in front of an exploding World Trade Center.
Wow.
And two band members, DJ Pam the Funktress, great name.
Right.
She's standing there waving two wands like she's orchestrating the events, and her bandmate Boots Riley was holding what was supposed to look like a detonator, although it was actually a guitar tuner.
Right.
But it was supposed
In real
to
life, IRL.
It was supposed to look like a detonator. Needless to say, that album was recalled with the quickness. And
their career.
Yeah. It was replaced with, the artwork was replaced with a flaming martini glass, which kind of seems quite the about face from the previous one. But I gotta say, I think alcohol is a little more befitting of an album titled Party Music than an exploding World Trade Center.
Yeah.
Like, that was a really strange one to me.
That was a bit serendipity on a grand scale.
Yeah,
right?
I thought that was a very strange choice to begin with. But, whatever.
Yeah. What do you know? Right.
Yeah, right, yeah. Also this isn't an album that was recalled or anything like that, but an interesting fact about 9/11 and the Twin Towers is I don't know if it's the very last footage. I think it was the last music video to have footage of the Twin Towers in it. Ryan Adams, the first single off of his second album, Gold, called New York, New York, it shows the World Trade Center in it. And I believe that's the last professionally recorded footage of the Twin Towers before they were shot down. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was always an interesting fact about that. And then now this happened several years after, but there's a punk band called Leftover Crack that great band, but they had
Are they really?
Oh yeah, I love that band. But they have an album called Fuck World Trade that came out in 2004, and the cover of it shows Bush and Cheney and I think someone else clearly orchestrating the events of 9/11. But that was sort of related to this topic, but a little
after the fact.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, I remember the Jimmy Eat World thing when it happened. I remember learning about the Strokes album because it's sad because that's actually one of the best songs on the album is
that right?
New York City Cops. Great song. Love it to death. And it's really not offensive to police officers, but I understand why they wanted to pull it due to the events of that. But the other three I knew nothing about. The Slayer t-shirt, I'd never heard of that before, and those other two albums. Obviously I know who Dream Theater is.
Right.
I mean, I don't really listen to them a whole lot, but I respect the band. But I did not know that about that album, and I definitely had never even heard of this hip hop duo, The Coup. I had never heard of that one at all. But that actually merited a Snopes article.
Really?
Yeah. And so it was so talked about, I guess, that there's actually an article on Snopes.com talking to it, and they interviewed the band, even talking about it as well. And they were just like, "No, we didn't know." It was just coincidental. They had actually done the photo shoot in May of that year. So they had the album artwork planned out since 6 months. Well, not 6 months, but several months prior to this. So just some very very bad luck on their part.
Wow.
Yeah, very interesting to.
It's funny, man, that I use Snopes a lot because Facebook. And, you know, I got friends of mine that they don't really take the time to, you know, and I love a vast majority of them. I like all of them, but I love a vast majority of them, but they just don't take the time to like, oh, it's on Facebook. It must be true.
A buddy of mine posted a picture, shortly after, I forget which hurricane it was, either Harvey or Irma, doesn't matter which one of the two. And, it was this picture of these two guys wading through like waist deep water, and one of them's carrying a cat and rescuing it. And it has just the most poorly photoshopped Donald Trump's head on this dude's body.
I've seen that, dude.
And I'm looking at it. I mean, you can tell.
I bet you won't see this on mainstream media.
Yeah, and it said something like that. And it's like, you can tell right away that this picture is not real.
Well, and it's not his build either.
No.
He's in way better shape than Trump.
And so I like this guy. He's a friend of mine. He's been a friend of mine since high school. And so I found the nicest way I could to say that was photoshopped. And so what I said was, for anyone who wants to see the real picture without the Photoshop, here is the original picture.
Is it a reverse image search?
Yeah. That's all I had to do. Literally, it was just I downloaded the picture, reverse image search, found the original right away, and boom, and posted it. And so I didn't, I wasn't saying like, you guys are retards for not listening or not doing research. I was very polite about it because it was an honest mistake on his part. But I was like, man, you research this stuff.
Right.
Like, do you really think any president, period, you think any president is going to go out there?
Yeah, pick one. Well, like him or not. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Abraham Lincoln wouldn't have done this. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no one's going to do that. Come on. Think a little bit. And he laughed and he's like, well, thanks for pointing that out. Like, I appreciate you.
See, that was cool, man. See,
yeah.
See, I'm, okay, hopefully this is rubbing off. If you're nice to people.
Hey, I've been doing a good job of not being an asshole as much. At least. And
yeah, I'm not as fat as I used to be, but I still got a lot of weight to go.
I've been trying to do that. Like, I just got to ignore news articles on Facebook because the comment section is just where human decency and critical thinking go to die.
Goes to the wayside. It's not.
It just all goes out the window there. And
I'm like you, man. I try not to be a jerk about it. But, I'm a big fan of, real life stuff. And, I mean, there's certain things that you can fudge on, music and art and things. Okay.
Right.
Grant.
Things are subjective.
Right. Exactly. But, if you're going to tell me a story and you're not expecting me to laugh at the end of it, that better be some truthful shit going on,
Yeah.
And so I'll take the Snopes, link and I'll put it in the response, how you respond to them,
Yeah.
And I got this, one friend of mine in Virginia Beach, and in fact, I think we actually did this morning, and she posted something, and I was like, it just sounds a little fishy. And then I just posted the link as a response, and she's like, fake news, and I like her a lot. She's really good people, but, she falls into that thing that a lot of people do with Facebook. They just, Facebook wouldn't let it. I mean, she's not stupid. This woman is a full grown ass woman. She goes to college. She's not stupid by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that
she's gullible.
I don't think she's very gullible, but I think there's a little bit of gullibility there. But I think that the main thing is you kind of fall into that lull, that Facebook lull. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's true and that's true. And so and so went shopping, and look at these shoes that they got. And well, Donald Trump's down in Alabama saving kittens.
Or like there was the one of him in a raft, and like someone is like handing a baby to him or something like that. It's like, come on. And he's in a suit.
Yeah.
He's like, first of all, do you think anyone,
no
period,
safety equipment whatsoever.
Yeah. Do you really think that anyone is going to get in a life raft in a suit to go try to rescue people in this dirty, polluted, infested water? I mean, think for yourself for a second.
Now,
come on.
In all reality, he does get good suits, so it's probably good $3,000 or $4,000, and I'm almost positive that they Scotch guard those. So a lot, Mr. Bluff.
Again, it's not even about supporting Trump or not.
Right.
It's just
because it really doesn't have anything to do with him. It has to do with the schmuck that was going on Photoshop and trying to boost up what his beliefs are. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's what annoyed me. Even if it was a president that I loved, if somebody posts that, I'm gonna be like, man, come on, dude, that's Photoshop. That's clearly Photoshop.
Yeah.
And just use a little critical thinking. Just any. And I saw that. Oh man, I just like Abraham Lincoln said, don't believe everything you read on the internet. I mean, you gotta.
It's true. Lao Tzu said that.
You gotta take this shit with a grain of salt and just do a little bit. Again, all I had to do was take the picture and do a reverse image search.
Oh, right.
All I had to do. And the first thing that pops up is this dude who clearly is not Donald Trump holding this cat.
Right.
That's all I had to do. It took me not even, I bet you, 15 seconds.
Right.
Now, granted, I have the mobile reverse image search bookmarked, so I don't have to go and search for it. I just downloaded the picture from Facebook, opened my Chrome browser, boom, Google image search, done.
Yeah, but if you can do it, then that means that it's humanly possible, which means that other people, and I don't know a lot of people that I've never met any of your friends that aren't intelligent, so they would be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone should be able to do that very easily.
Now don't get what John's saying wrong. What he's definitely not saying is get better at making these pictures. He's not saying that. Okay, he's not saying get better at it so you can fool everybody so they don't Snopes it.
I've seen quite a few Photoshops in my time. I can tell from the pixels.
Yeah, what he's saying is just try to do a little bit of research. Make sure before you go spreading them lies around that it's actually what you think it is.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to. I mean, most of these things can easily be debunked with just the most freaking cursory Googling. I mean, you don't have to, be an expert in research to be able to do this. It just a little bit of common sense, a little bit of critical thinking, and a few clicks. Right. All you got to do, and it just.
And you got somebody out there that's like, I ain't got no time for this. Your fat ass is on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, that means you got some damn time.
Again, I know it took me well under 30 seconds.
Sure.
From downloading the picture until the time the Google reverse image search came back. I mean, I know it was well under 30 seconds.
Sure.
Total.
Still had change left over. You had enough time to go make a pot of French press coffee.
Yeah, I mean, so even someone who's not as tech savvy as I am, you can still probably do it in a minute or two pretty damn easy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
jeez, maybe it's just faster to share it.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I wanted to put that on there. Again, not to shame my friend, because I love this guy.
Sure.
He's one of my good friends from high school, and I certainly I did my best to try to not make him feel stupid.
Absolutely.
Because he's not stupid, and I didn't want him to feel stupid about it. I just wanted to point out in the nicest way that I could that, hey, that image isn't real.
Right.
Like that.
What would be nice is, I mean, logistically, I don't know if it would even be possible, but, if at the bottom you have like, comment, and share, if you had like, comment, share, validate, reverse image search,
that
or
would be nice.
Snopes or something like that. But you got these knuckleheads like we was talking about. I won't say his name, but a friend of a friend that he called me everything but a white boy, at the bar one night.
Yeah.
And he's big time Trump supporter, and that's cool. Whoever you're behind, I respect that. But then he was saying, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. That's whenever it's, dumbasses like you that will be, you'll be looking at us, to save you because we're the only ones with guns because we didn't give our guns up to the government or, all that shit.
It's funny. I kept hearing Obama was going to take guns away for 8 years, and I still have my guns. You
know why? Because he sucked as a president. It took him 8 years and he still couldn't get it done.
Oh man.
Yeah. But what was funny is, that dude that we're talking about, he's such a little dude. There is nothing in his, I mean, not that I'm, the biggest guy or the toughest guy or anything like that, but he's such physically little, mild mannered person that, there's no other subject I can think about that we would be talking about that he would be so volatile.
Yeah, exactly.
But we sat in a whiskey bar and he just called me everything but a white boy. And
that's just so dumb.
Going to that extreme. Man.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you know what? That's politics. We ain't about that. But go on with your thing, man.
Well, hey, yeah, guys, as always, if you have any myths or legends you would like for us to research for the show, you can email us at hosts, HOSTS, at T2M2.org, or you can message us on Facebook. You can find us at Tall Tales of Music Mythology, or on Twitter at T2M2 Podcast.
And I can tell you all them ways, but y'all ain't going to listen to me. You're just going to Google it anyway. But you can get a hold of me at the smartsproject.com and email me at Randy at the smartsproject.com. I'm sorry, Randy at the smartsproject.com. In the meantime, always be good to each other. Tell your kids you love them every day. Never be a myth.
Always be a legend.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.